Good afternoon on what is a bright sunny day. It is Friday 25th of March. I'm in the reading nook with a nice hot cup of tea and a parcel to open. So let's see what this is. If there's a tag, yeah, there is. There we go. And what I've got in here is that. Pull the first one out, which is Hostile and the rule book for the game. And this also comes with, obviously, you've got a setting book. Hostile. What would an ocean be without a monster lurking in the dark? It would be like sleep without dreams. Hostile rules as a companion volume to the Hostile setting book. Together they form the Hostile role-playing game, a nail-biting tabletop experience of sci-fi horror and gritty survival in a harsh futuristic setting. The game is inspired by movies like Outland, Moon, The Thing, The Abyss and Alien. Hostile rules introduce the concept of role-playing with plenty of advice on running scenarios and campaigns. There are rules for creating blue-collar characters, distant off-world colonies and exotic alien animals. Life in space is explored and rules provided for task resolution, firefights and space combat. Crucial to the setting is a chapter on hazards, survival and everything that is trying to kill the characters, from deep sea decompression to poison atmospheres and radiation. Step out of the airlock, sure it's dangerous, but that's what they pay you that huge bonus for, right? Okay, so this requires a copy of the Hostile setting book to play, and I'll look at that in another video. So we open up, and this is from Zozer, from Zozer Games, and it uses the Cepheus engine, which is so Zozer Games is an English publisher. I've looked at their AD43 role-playing game, which is an interesting take upon, like a brutal take upon Roman occupation of Britannia, and the Cepheus engine is essentially the open game license version of the Traveller mechanics, the 2d6 mechanics, where you are rolling two six-sided dice, adding a bonus for your stat and your skill, if any. So we open up and we have the introduction and explanation of the missions. And then explanation of what we do, what role playing is, and you can see it's quite large and open. It's not compact, so it's eminently readable. And we've got a primer here of how the game works, and then there's the Hostile line of books. So we have scenarios listed there. There's the Hostile book. We've got scenarios listed up there as well. And current list of supplements. It's essentially, and then we get to game terminology. So that's quite lengthy. It's 2-3 pages long, and then guidelines for using this Hostile setting and the rules for the games like that. So as an alternative, before we get into the game system in the second chapter, really this is an introductory chapter, setting everything up, giving a bit of context to both sort of like the overall nature of the game, and we have the core rules. So generally, we different 2d6, two six-sided dice, and then characteristic roll adds just like the bonus from the stat, if any. Skill roll adds both, and so it's constantly slightly more difficult, and so on. And then got rules for aiding each other. So really the core rules are just explained here. That's it. And a nice upfront about that. Easy for the player and referee to find. Before we get into characters, and here we are talking about things like what type of crew. So it might be a colony work crew, or corporate investigation crew, roughneck crew, commercial starship crew, resource exploration crew, Marine Corps squad, private military contractors. Again, we're expanding sort of like the series of options in a what would be a setting that is akin to that of Aliens, where space exploration is dangerous, but it's a place to work and survive. You know, so you have big spaceships, you know, pulling, bringing back resources to core planets for processing and so on, and the like. And there's threats out there, whether that's of the environment or alien creatures or xenomorphs or bugs that you might want to run into. So we've got an explanation of the characteristics. Again, that scale of 2 to 2, to really 2 to 12 on the dice, but really up to 15 and 16 are, you know, basically using the hexadecimal system, where 16 becomes 10 or G. We'll get into careers. And we have random creation, basically all following the standard kind of Star Trek. Sorry, it's not Star Trek. Traveller rules, or Cepheus rules, as they are. So that includes going through your career term by term, usually 4 years long, gaining skills and advancements, re-enlisting, mustering out, suffering the effects of injuries and aging. So characters can begin play anywhere from 22 to 48 or older. And alternatively, so that's a random direction, but you could do design-based creation as well. And usually not an option in Traveller per se, where it's always been random. But you know, this adds the option if players don't like rolling the dice. But you know, to be honest, it's actually fun. I really like, you know, if I'm rolling characters, so if creating characters for Traveller, it's fun to create them by dice because you never know what comes up. And we've got an example of that, of using the design process there. And we have the option here for role-playing androids if you have those in the setting, presumably in the hostile setting they are there. And we've got android careers and options for creating those. And then so, or even role-playing proles, as in proletariat, and they're genetically curated labourers used to assist human population. So you've got that kind of crossover there. So you've got the androids, but you've also got the genetically curated labourers as sort of like a little bit like Blade Runner. And then then we have essentially each entry, each type of character type. You have a set of tables for characteristics, careers, terms and skills, and so on. And we're going to do that the same for things like corporate agents, corporate execs. So that's if you want to be playing Burke, a la aliens or colonists, commercial spacers, and so on. And then you differentiate between them. Really essentially by the skills. Marines for aliens, and then Marshal for Outland, position again, obviously Outland, and so on. I mean, again, you can easily look to the genre for inspiration of all of these. Roughneck scientists, so lots there that you can build a crew around, and it's not something necessarily. I think really it is really building the sort of like it's generally theming campaigns around the crews, so that's indicating the type of games that the players want to play and the game master wants to run. So obviously, you know, you all create Marines if you want to play a military science fiction campaign. So there's the character sheet. And then we've got a list of skills and their explanations. That's actually kept quite short. It's really quite brief. And we get on to we have a list of sort of like what the skills mean, some indication of rank and so on to associate with that. That adds a bit of context to a lot of the skills. So, for example, if you're a civilian and you have Aircraft 1, you have a national pilot license, or Broker 1, a commercial brokerage license. Similarly, then you go on for United States Marine Corps, commissioned officers, Admin 2, logistics officer. Admin 1 for the United States Marine Corps, Marine Clerk. And it's interesting. I've actually played. When I actually played the leading edge version game, but leading edge version of the Aliens role-playing game, I ended up being the platoon clerk, and that was fun because I did all the paperwork, and not that I enjoyed doing paperwork, but essentially it was an interesting role-playing element to the character because that was what it was. So when we have to get into game effects, stress generally isn't an issue in Cepheus or games like Trevor. But obviously, because because we're looking at hazards here, so hazards, it's important because the frontier out there, frontier and space isn't safe. So we actually have a stress roll, and panic effects already built in to the rules. So we have environmental effects, hostile atmospheres, and so on. Radiation, pressure loss, and then operating in zero gravity, hunger and fatigue, and so on. It's just generally sort of like, okay, these are the hazards you're going to encounter in space. And they're dealing with particular environments, so when you're on planet, desert survival, Arctic survival. The emphasis upon the game is it's called hostile for a reason. Then we get on to combat, which can be a big feature of the game or not, depending upon the nature of it. If you're playing a United States Colonial Marines Corps game, then it's going to play a major role. So that's covering melee combat, aim fire, and sort of like we've got typical illustrations of the weapons there. It's sort of like just breaking up the text, very sort of like near future combat weapons. So yeah, it's basically everything, covering everything that we really need, all the way. And then you sort of like vehicle combat as well. Don't see particularly a lengthy example of combat, but we've got vehicle weapons, and the image of it. Basically, we've got a mechanical AV-105 jump jet, jump gunship. This is sort of vaguely like a aliens dropship, but not quite. And it's interesting to note that the designers were talking to me about this and saying, sort of like this, as I say, this. There are lots of elements in here, and the setting, of course, which are reminiscent of Alien because they're big fans of the setting, and that's also sort of like crossed over because essentially they've been asked to write for the actual Aliens role-playing game from Free League. So then we've got the rules for space travel, and operating hyperdrive and its parameters there, and the mission, flight planning, paying customers, flight planning, fueling, all the day-to-day running of running a starship. And that's important. Essentially, it's in a game like Hostile with its blue-collar science fiction horror theme. Those kind of details kind of matter because it's not a universe where you push the button and the spaceship goes. It has to be worked, it has to be operated, and so on. It has to be kept in working order. So we've got some idea, sort of like some of the worlds. There's a sort of like an attractive-looking world that the player characters might land at and find some sort of refuge and respite from the hazards they've encountered elsewhere. And then what's more important, of course, is that when they do return, what's happening with the bonus situation. Of course, the first thing that Parker from the film Alien would ask if he'd survived, what's my bonus? And of course, Starship Combat. as we've got them here, so we've got tables to sponsor combat for data sheet, the weapons, ship combat crew actions, and basically what they can do. So captain, navigator, pilot, and so on. To really basically their roles in combat. And we have world data, and this is for creating worlds, determining the starport and size. Yes, size and more. Very much again, you are looking at the typical kind of language that you would see in Traveller, and of course also Cepheus. So it will be familiar to a lot of players of those games. There's the atmosphere section. And basically the water percentages, the hydrographics, and this will be represented by sort of like a universal code, a universal world code or profile, sort of government and tech level, law level, trade codes, and so on. Language really for the role-playing game that has sort of like carried on really from 1977 down to this date with Hostile from the original Traveller and the Little Black Books. Trading, so you can actually take a ship to spaceship and run it and try and make money. So we're player as broker, and then we've got spaceship encounters, colony encounters. It's all there. It's basically lots of information and details which you can, the game master can refer to and bring into play. So we've got trout animal encounters. So creating animals, and then we get onto exomorphs, alien horrors, and then managing your crew and how to run the game. Scenario creation and advice. Campaigns and so on, and then we've got sort of like a requisite sort of set of sheets at the back. So basically, basically creating like an area or a basic sector map or a region of space, and your ship record sheet, and so on, and then rounded out, of course, by various tables. So that's the Hostile core rulebook. Obviously you'll need the setting book to go with it, but there you have, even without that, you probably have a credible blue-collar science fiction role-playing game using the Cepheus engine. Because obviously there are options available, so obviously Mothership and Alien, and there are others too. But this offers that options for the Traveller or Cepheus fan. Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed this unboxing of the Nook. If you have, then please do click on the like button down below. And if you've got any comments or feedback, appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to get more unboxings of the Nook, where you will see me out here with a parcel and a book, which I will unbox and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so. All, of course, accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea. Then please do hit that subscribe button. Once again, thanks for watching another unboxing of the Nook. I'll be back again soon with another one. Bye for now.